This is going to be an exercise of building a tent to a Wild West theme, right? But I want to give you dimensions in this just short exercise here. If I were to choose, I choose not to give exact dimension. Well, they are not empirical and not supposed to be referenced, because I would really like you to think about it yourself and create your own or design your own pops here. So it is intended to be a small and not functional. It's just for show. It's a pops, okay? So the first thing we want to start off is a preview of the important or the key tool that we're looking at here is actually two. As always, not surprisingly, the most powerful tool indeed is the push-pull again for today. And the second one is let's get more familiar or a little bit more in advance, as in learning about the circle, or how to draw an arc or part of a circle, an arc. And there are different tools, right? That you have your arc, so you draw from the center out, okay? Say just any point in, and then you click first, that defines the center, and the second point is you define the length of the radius, and then whatever angle you want to finish it with, right? So this is the most straightforward tool. And the second one would be a 2-point arc, okay? It's not necessarily using the radius of the circle. So in cases that you don't know exactly where the radius is, but you want to fill a gap, for example, then maybe you want to do something with this. But it's symmetric, as you can see, as I pull away from the vertical, the shorter distance line between the 2 points in circumference, and the radius or the whole circle changes in size. But today, one word is very important: tangent. Tangent is you draw any line that only touches the circle once in its path. Okay, for example, this line, if I extend it, and as you can see, there's only 1 point, just 1 point touching the circumference of the circle, and this straight line is called a tangent to that point. And this circle has infinitely amount of points and infinite amount of tangents. So if I draw a straight line perpendicular to the tangent at that tangent point, the contact point between the circumference and the tangent line, and it's always going towards the direction of the center of the circle. That's just the radius. That gives you the radius. And this is the definition of a tangent, with its tangent point and tangent line. So that's to that concept. And let's get rid of these. And we'll start drawing our Tapee here with the base. Say 1700 millimeters. And from the midpoint, you could use your line tool again. It snaps right with the light blue, pops up with midpoint, and then make sure you are drawing up along the blue z-axis, pointing up the sky. Make sure it's vertical, perfectly vertical, pointing up sky, and I would say 1700 millimeters. Enter. So you have a inverted T, right? And easy enough. You just all you have to do is just connect the diagonals through all the endpoints, so you get two right angle triangle here. And it's this equilateral triangle that makes up the two sides, or the front view of the Tapee that we're trying to draw here. So the next step would be to push-pull, like so, but I wouldn't do them like with the same amount of depth, just to arbitrarily, roughly. It doesn't have to be accurate, because this is just for show. But this symmetrical shape isn't good enough. You always want some detail. So I activate my 2-point art tool, and I'm trying to do like a draw in like an art right in the middle, like so. Follow along. So here where that tangent comes in, to draw in a line, giving you the illusion of flipping up and opening part of the cloth, the fabric of the tapee. See, you don't have to start at the midpoint, but I'm gonna just for simplicity, I'm just gonna click that midpoint on the bottom side of that edge, right? And then I try to go along and see. Did you see that pops up with the color changing into purple? And then it says tangent to edge. Is that edge going up? That vertical edge I'm stopping at right now, when your pencil snaps to it, it gives you that exactly that length, that radius. There's only one possibility of drawing that tangent line and that quadrant for 1/4 of a circle, this arc, over these two right angle edges between them to create a shape. Not longer than that, or not shorter. You cannot do it right. Well, you could do it, but then it won't be that perfect curve that matches it seamlessly. Or if you go too high up, that art is just going overshoot and it's not giving you, it goes over to the other side and you're not getting it square. So now this is exactly where I would click with the purple line, tangent to edge. And of course the third time you have to click is still maintaining that shape, so you have to click it the first time with the purple line. Voila, there you go. So is this shape interesting enough that suggests a tap to introduce the flavor of an Indian tapee? But we're gonna worry about that later. Right now you can see it's thin without thickness, so the next step should be is pull it and give it some volume. Doesn't matter how much. For example, I'm just gonna go about 250 millimeters, and of course I want a different level on the other side of the tent, like this one, flipped one, probably lower than it. As you can see, I always want to save something to build different levels between the layers and keep like a negative volume sense towards the inside of the tent, just to make it pop, to build the illusion of a volume in there. Get it the mysterious tent that people would kind of believe is a lot more deeper than what we're seeing right now, and people would imagine things, or people live in there, or things would come out from here. But now you can see we're facing other problems, is that the faces are reversed. See, the inside is white in color instead of the outside. Everything is reversed. But before we fix the face problem, what we have to do is to well, you could try reversing the faces. Just try. But when you go around it, you can see you cannot save both sides. We know that. That's the nature of it. But then I can still reverse it first. But what's more important is that you have to create a surface to suggest the volume from the back. Of course, if this is only shown in the front, then you can just leave it like what it is now. But as you can see, as I go through reversing the faces, I'm not done here, because SketchUp cannot calculate a void or that complicated shape with so many edges, with a combination of a triangle and an arc. So what I have to do is now I draw it myself, like so, connecting the two. Just a simple straight vertical line from the top of the tapee to that rear middle point right there. Once I've drilled this in, it's like saying I have defined an area or the shape for SketchUp to calculate, and then it use that face, the surface on the back of the tapee, and now I have my volume. It's like it's amazing when I draw this in, and then it's like all my problems go away. And then what's not done yet is just the smallest area here. I'm not talking about the bottom faces, but this one here, this irregular corner leftover shape that represents the inside. So I would go push-pull it, simple enough, just like so. That's same as the other two volume that I did 2 levels with the tens, but as you would imagine, that gives you a back face, but it does not because I haven't defined it. It's the same problem as from before. You have to go in and draw the straight line yourself and define that complicated shape for SketchUp to finish it off for the back face. So there you go. Use your line tool to draw in a straight line here. Click the top. It's pretty much the same thing, run all the way down, and that's it. So you have just finished it with surrounding it with 3 edges. The bottom one is always been there, the curve when we drew in the tangent arch, and now the 3rd edge we just drew in to complete that surface. So the next part is we go to camera, standard view, and you put into parallel projections, of course, to get some direct decoration on the fronts of the tents. So, well, we try some zigzag lines about this level, but before that I should draw in a horizontal line, just like so. Okay, it doesn't have to be midpoint, just pick any point in height that you think is good looking, proportionally aesthetically it looks as good. And now snaps to the midpoint, and then you can start drawing out a circle. I could always go about marking or dividing, doing the math, but what's better is you use circle. If you know good enough, then like people use divider or compasses, they always get the equal distance of a radius. So now I have a circle that divides that line right here, the horizontal line is right in the midpoint, and then I can draw in more circles, keep dividing that horizontal line, so I draw a smaller one even in the midpoint of the midpoint, right? Okay, same size, so then equal on both sides, which is the radius here. And now if I make use of these circles, I can draw lines that are equal distance to all the endpoints, and then I can draw in beautiful symmetrical zigzag line for the decoration of the tapee. Just by repeating this process, same deal here, midpoint of the midpoint. Okay, go straight up where the intersection of the vertical radius and the circumference meets. Gives you a point and join to the center, and the other one to the other end point. Now you have that beautiful neat zigzag line drawn. The rest is just labor intensive. Just use your eraser and keep clicking and erase all the unnecessary lines. And now after all the lines erased, that you can use your offset to go up or down. I rather go up because this is always easier to trim than to extend. Now I have like an area, and then I erase the excess, so you have thickness to it, And even that, you can push or pull a letter, pull out to create a 3D pattern for the tapee. Well, there you have it. If you want it to be symmetrical, you can repeat that on the other side. So it's pretty much the basic of it. And in this exercise, we learn to use the 2-point arch and the concept of tangent saves the day, as in how we draw in the half open tapee.